Tune in to the Diva House.
Yay! We made it!
I know, finally, right? How's everything going?
Very good, thank you. How about you?
It's going good. So, are you working on anything new?
Well, I'm working on a talk I'm gonna give to kids in different schools. There's a project, a global project, and I will be talking to kids in Madagascar, Taiwan, Israel. So it's pretty amazing because I think that the I think that I wrote my book thinking about moms, but I
Okay.
think my audience will be really kids because
Okay.
they're the ones that will have to face climate change
Right.
in a couple of years, in a couple of decades.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the talk that you're going to do to kids to school about climate change.
If you want, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. So typically I'll introduce you, and then we can talk about how you had to change your mindset from a long term employer to a small business owner, and
Yeah.
what steps did you had to go about that. Then I'll jump over to what you're working on now, and then we can talk about the book.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Sounds terrific.
So let me. Oh, it's still okay. So I have to tell them to cut that part out. So hey, you guys, thanks for tuning in to the Diva Hustle Show. Today, our guest is Ximena. She was a CFO of a Mexican environmental funded to herbalistic, and now you're a health coach too, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so you had a dream as a child. Tell me about your dream as a child to change the environment.
Well, it was a recent dream. I moved from Mexico to the US
Okay.
7 years ago. So back then, working remotely was not an option. So I was the CFO of this Mexican environmental fund. I was born and raised in Mexico City. So when we moved, I knew that my time there was over. So I was thinking, what can I do? Because when I was the CFO, I was used to set the rules and tell everyone what to do. I was a boss. So I didn't care about their feelings or their thoughts. I didn't care. They would say, I do not agree with this. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, we're going to do this. I don't care if you agree or not. So they called me Dr. No, actually. But they were right. I was Dr. No. I said everything, no. So I got here and I was like, I can look for another job in another NGO. But maybe all these years I worked 23 years as a CFO. So these years I just lost touch with people because I was just telling people what to do and I didn't care about their feelings. So what about doing something different, still caring for the environment, but touching people's lives? Because I was growing apart from everybody else.
Right.
So I thought, well, not a couple, like 10, well, since I was maybe 14 years old, I was always sick.
Okay.
So every week or every month, I have a new thing. My dad used to say, good morning in the morning, like, good morning, what new illness do you have today? So
Wow.
I was always sick, always with something, taking pills. So one day, I was sick, always, but there were sicknesses that I had them and then I take some medicines and then I was okay.
Okay.
One day I was diagnosed with POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And the cardiologist told me, you have to take a pill for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And I asked, well, that was like a shock to me because I was used to take medicines for a while.
Now, how
And
old
then-
were you at this point?
At this point, I was 38 or 39.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have two little kids and daughters, and I was like, I don't want to be bounded to a medicine for the rest of my life. And I asked her, is there something I can do, like a diet or something to reverse this condition? No. What you eat and your health, are not connected. She said that.
Wow.
But she said, okay, I don't want to impose you anything. Go try any diet you want. Then come back in 2 months with a new set of lab tests, and we'll see your medicines and everything you have to have. And then I started reading about nutrition and how to heal conditions through diet and lifestyle. And I actually got back there 2 months later, and she was shocked. She was like, what did you do? Like, all my patients have to do what you did. So when and after that, I moved to Colorado around 3 years later, and this is 7 years ago. So I was thinking maybe I can do something with my experience. I can be close to people and show them that there's a way for people that are, just tired of being told that they are sick and their conditions have no cure.
Right.
Maybe I can come close to them and tell them that, of course, it's simple. Those are simple changes, but they're not easy. It's like, you know that you have to exercise. It's simple, it's simple. But sometimes it's not easy to start working out. So I said, how can I be close to people and teach them my experience? And then I thought, well, maybe I should study to become a health coach. And I did that. And I'm also a yoga teacher and a biomagnetism therapist, a Reiki therapist. And I started there. And then one day, I still worked for the Environmental Fund. And one day I saw Greta Thunberg. I'm very close to environmental issues because I worked in an environmental fund. And I was watching her, and she was very, very angry and telling all, corporations and governments, see the world you're leaving to us. And I was thinking, well, my girls are the same generation. We're not living a livable world for them. So she was very angry, and she was pointing fingers and everything, and she was right. But I saw her and I thought, well, I already work in an environmental fund, so I'm doing my part.
Right.
But the question remained a couple of months in my mind. But I had the answer. Oh, I'm working, I'm doing my part as a CFO of this environmental fund. And one night I had this dream about a little girl, and I kind of remember her, like her eyes in fire, like Greta Thunberg. And I didn't know who she was, but sometimes in dreams you don't know people, but you kind of know who they are. Right. So I knew she was related to me in some way, maybe my granddaughter, great-granddaughter. And I was just looking at her, and I was uncomfortable because she was kind of angry and sad, and I came and I said, well, everything's going to be all right. And she said, do you think so? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, if I ask you a question, you're going to tell me the truth? Yeah, go ahead. Did you do everything in your power to change climate change?
Oh, wow.
And then I just woke up crying because I had my answer. Right. I was not doing everything I could. I was working for that environmental fund, right. But there were more things I could do.
Now, and I would CFO, what was some of your job description? What were some of the things you were involved in?
Yeah, the numbers, the financial statements. Okay. I was in charge of the control of everything, okay. Like all the manuals and procedures. We have to comply with the authorities. So I was in charge of reviewing the numbers, and all the rules and procedures were done.
Right.
Yeah, and I was very happy because, in Mexico, we're known as a corrupt country. Yeah. But this place, as I was managing the money and everything, they audited us sometimes. Okay. And everything was in order. There was no not 1 peso, which is our currency.
Right.
You couldn't find 1 peso in another place. So it was good. I was a good CFO, but I was not relating to
Right. That's
people.
what I was getting. Yeah, that was our next
Yeah.
question. So as a CFO, you really wasn't able to relate, or you wasn't really the policy changer, if that want to say. You wasn't like, hey, we need clear energy bills, or you wasn't really there as a CFO.
Yeah, I was. I always wanted to bring the offices, to do them green,
Right.
yeah, more efficient, and I was behind that, but I was not connecting to
Okay.
people.
Okay.
I just wanted to set the rules and tell everybody what to do to be more efficient, or to save more money, or to, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I couldn't. I wasn't ready to listen deeply to people.
So you have the dream, and you wake up and you're like, hey, I need to do more.
I need to do more. So I said, well, what can I do? I'm starting to become a health coach. I'm still working for this environmental fund. How can I bring those worlds together? How can I be a health coach that still promotes the conservation or the environment?
Right.
So I was reviewing some literature, and I to my hands came the UN report of, I think it was 2015.
Okay.
And it was a short version of that report. And in between lines, it said that reduce meat consumption.
Okay.
It was one of the things the UN was telling, because they would tell, reduce your emissions. And you're like, well, my emissions are my car, and I need my car to go to work, right? So what can I do? But in between lines, reduce meat consumption. And I was like, I want to know why. So I started to do some research, and the deeper I went, I found some terrible things that they're not telling us, or lies. We've been fed lies, actually.
Wow.
So I said, I want to write a book, and I want to bring peace to people to understand that what we've been told about nutrition and, for example, protein is just a myth. And I was like, I need to write a book and let people know that we're in the hands of a bunch of people that they just want to make more money. They're not interested in our health or the planet or they just want to make more money.
That was my next question. It was going to be, do you feel like the information that we're being fed is more like it's a business? Like if you say, oh, okay, everybody it's healthy to have coffee, and then everybody goes buys all this coffee, when you're finding in your research, like you just said, protein is not really that healthy. It's not, it's not really that good for you.
It's not that good for us, and actually it's not good for the planet. Because you see, large carnivores are very nature because they need a lot of prey.
Right.
So we're around almost 8 billion people in the world. So, and not everybody eats meat.
Right.
So that's a good thing. But if everybody in the world eat the amount of meat we eat in the standard American diet, we would need 7 planet Earths to supply that demand. Wow. So it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable at all. And whatever we have right now to supply the demand we have right now is doing a great harm to the planet. Because 1/3 of the greenhouse gases, the gas emission to the atmosphere, 1/3 come from agriculture. 70% of that figure comes from livestock.
Right.
So we're damaging the atmosphere, but also we're damaging the soils, the water, the air.
Yeah.
Because when you have to supply the actual demand for animal protein, we have to have these animals in confined spaces. And when you don't have them walking around, you have a lot of waste, all the manure. You have to manage it.
Yeah.
And then they use these pools and they try to convert methane and a lot of things that are contributing to polluting the water, the air, and it's a great contributor to climate change. So we have a lot of animals. We treat them very, very bad.
Yeah.
And actually, we don't need that amount of animal protein. If I ask you, if I say the word protein, what comes to your mind?
Chicken.
Exactly. And actually, everything has proteins because proteins are just chains of amino acids.
Okay.
Even plants. Actually, how can a cow have protein if they don't eat protein?
True.
They
come
get
from
it
the plant, from the grass.
from the grass, and we can do that. And then, of course, there are some essential. We usually make our bodies. They make the amino acids, except for 9. There are 20, and there are 9 that we have to get from what we eat. And it's easy to have a piece of meat because you have the 9 essential amino acids there. But you can combine families of foods like legumes and cereals and fruits and vegetables and seeds and mushrooms. Many mushrooms are complete proteins too. And if you combine them, you don't need animal products because they have the downside of they're damaging the environment, having all these animals confined in one place, and they're not so good for our health. Like in a short-term survival situation, they might help you survive, but they will never make you thrive because they're deficient in micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. They don't have antioxidants. So it's a myth. If you eat everything, you're gonna be fine.
Right.
So well, yeah, we've been fed.
We're being fed, but also you see it now because, because of the COVID and the pandemic, you don't see as many meats in the store, and if you do see meats, they're kind of pricey, and so you have a lot of people now where they're trying to supplement, like you're saying, trying to eat more vegetables. They're trying to, you eat more sweet potatoes, things like that, and I feel like you were saying earlier, it's a business. They push these diets or whatever on us, saying, oh, this is healthy, but all in term, it's not really that healthy for us. And we're seeing it now because you have a lot of people like that are we're the biggest nation that have obesity, heart attacks, high blood pressure, things like that.
Those diseases are called chronic diseases or lifestyle diseases. And they are the result of how we're living today, what we're eating and how we're living. And, Mexico is number 1 on child's obesity.
Wow.
Yeah, and the US is number 2. But it's terrible to hear those numbers because we can do something. The thing is that everybody has told us, eat your proteins, and we moms think, oh, my kids, they need to eat proteins, and what we think is animal products, which is all wrong. So our kids are very, very sick, and they're having these diseases that 20 years ago were just adult diseases.
Yes.
And now they're having all these diseases: liver disease, heart disease, obesity, of course, diabetes type 2.
Yes.
So and the thing is, I always say, we stop asking questions. We're not asking, why should I eat that amount of animal protein? We just do as we're told by these people we believe in, like our doctors or parents or neighbors or some authority figure, and we're like, he said or she said, I should do that. And we stopped asking, if I'm obese, if I'm always sick, what is going on? What can I change? As my doctor said, there's no diet that could help you. And I was like, let me try. And she said, okay, try. And I tried by myself. I was curious, but not everybody's curious. So I think we're lacking curiosity nowadays.
I think that so when it comes to doctors, you feel like I know for sure doctors, it's a business, right? And so they have products that they have to push so that they can get their money back off the product. And like you were saying, I know a friend of mine, he recently became diabetic, found out he was a diabetic type 2. And, they were like, oh, take these medicines. And I'm like, but you don't have to take the medicine. If you change your diet and your eating habits, in a couple months, a few months, and you work out, everything, your diabetes will go away. So it's just like you're saying, sometimes people, I feel like certain people, certain communities, they take the doctor as law instead of being able to challenge them and say, I don't know, or let me do some research on it.
Yeah, I had a client, he had diabetes. He came to me because he had diabetes. And he was very scared about losing a foot or becoming blind. He was very afraid of that. But we're health coaches, so we're not just focusing on the sickness. We focus on the whole person. So we went through all different areas of his life, and he was going through a very dark time, feeling that he was not enough, that people might laugh at him, things going on like that. So we started working holistically. And of course, he changed his diet. He was used to eat animal products all day long. So he changed his diet. Of course, I'm not saying that I just guided him, but he did what felt good in his body. And at the end of 6 months, he had reversed his diabetes. But I asked him, what's the best thing that happened during your program? And I was sure he was going to say that I reversed my diabetes because that's the reason he came to me. And he said that I am now really a happy person.
Oh, wow.
So there were things going on in his life beyond the sickness. And usually we have a sickness, it's because of what we're eating, but there's some things going on too in our lives that we have to face and then figure out how to go ahead and pass them.
Yeah,
right?
We do. I mean, because like you were saying, some people, you'll find out some food become a dependency for some people, and now even during COVID or the pandemic, you'll find out a lot of people are lonely. So what happens? They turn to food, or they turn to alcohol, or they turn to drugs. So yeah, it's definitely an underlying issue of, what's going on with people.
Yeah, and how we relate to food, because it's normal if, oh, you got an A, let's celebrate, let's have donuts. So we start putting those things together, and whenever you're sad or you're happy, you have to get your reward, and it's mostly in the form of foods, processed foods, loaded with sugars and fats that are not good for you. So yeah, it's also a cultural thing. The reward and the rewards, and whenever you're sad or your kid is sad, oh, don't be sad, here, have a lollipop. So they start making that connection. It's funny. It has to do with the way we relate to food, but sometimes you just get this awareness about I want to do something good for my body. I'm tired of being on medications all the time. I'm tired of people telling me that my condition has no cure, because in my case, the doctor told me, your condition is forever. There's no cure, and I haven't had a pill in the last 8 years. Not even for a headache or anything. I don't take medicines at all.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you start trusting, because we have evolved as a species with nature. Of course, nature has the cure for everything that's happening to us. We've been evolving together. So we do good for them, they do good for us.
Right. And that's why now we're dealing with global warming, you know what I mean? You'll see where the seasons are getting all switched up is because we're not taking care of the environment like we should. And it's kind of scary, you know what I mean? Because I know like now this is March 1st. I live in Pennsylvania, and it's like we really didn't have a winter,
Yeah.
So
and neither in Colorado. We have a couple of snow days. Last week was very, very cold.
Right.
But other than that, it was warm. We had little snow. Yeah, it's. We had a fire on Boulder.
Okay.
I think it was the last day of December. Something like a wildfire.
Wow.
Yeah, it burned a lot of houses. December in Boulder. Like,
Wow.
wow.
There, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So tell me, how was the transition from a CFO to entrepreneur, being your own business, opening up a small business?
Yeah, well, it was difficult, very difficult, because I was used to receive my paycheck for 23 years.
Okay.
And then I was like, I'm gonna start my business. And I knew nothing. So I had to take a lot of courses and things to try to understand how to do it. And then I realized that I had to change my mindset.
Right.
That was the first thing I had to change, because I was used to get my paycheck, and now I was doing different things. I had to adapt to a totally new world, a new thing. So it was difficult. I have no success stories for now, because I'm in the process of doing this. I'm betting in my book, in my consultations. But it was very, very difficult. I had to invest a lot in myself, like to try to understand where I was, how can I change the way I saw the world, because I was living a new world. And then we had COVID, which was made everything more difficult. Yeah.
I feel like when you're transitioning from working for a company to entrepreneurship, it's like you have to have faith for one, right? Faith have to get you through there, because I think so many people get stuck like, oh, what if the business don't make no money? You know what I mean? So they just stay at their job, they 9 to 5. And so I like to ask entrepreneurs, like, when you're transitioning, how was it, and how did you get your mindset ready? Like, what was some of the things that you did to like overcome the nervousness that you had?
It's hard. Things I needed to learn is to trust in myself and trust in the process, and be able to set my goals and just trust. Sometimes you have to plan, but sometimes you have your goals and you just let everything, the universe, to set the road, or how is it gonna be. So I was like, every time I have an opportunity to meet people, to learn something new, I was there, because I wanted to learn. So right now I'm doing a lot of things. I'm doing these interviews in English, which for me, a year ago, I would have said no. In English, there's no way I'm doing a thing in English. Now I have my book in English. I wrote it in Spanish, and I translated it into English last year. So I feel like I'm close. I learned to trust myself, to feel that I am enough. I think that's one of the first things we have to learn. We are enough, and we live in an abundant world where there's plenty for everyone. We're also with this programmed mind that everything is difficult, and money is scarce, and it's difficult to get money, and you have to switch all of that and just give it time. Give it time, make the connections, open yourself. If you say, I already know that, you're gonna lose. You have to be open, and if you think I already know that, go for it and challenge yourself. I went to a course where I have to do some lives in English. And first I said, no, I won't do that. And somebody said, that's the point. You have to start doing lives in English. So that's where I started. And my first lives, I was just like reading everything, because I couldn't go in English. I couldn't speak in English in front of a camera. So yeah, things that you have to change from within, like very deep fears. Your most deep fears, you have to face them and go for it and say, this will change everything. And I need to, the first thing is I need to change. There's some changes coming. I'm totally open to that.
And so, so you wrote the book. What's the title of the book again?
It's Healthy Planet, Healthy You.
And how was your writing process? Did you had like how long did it take for you to write the book?
Oh, it took me, I think it was around 4 months,
Oh,
because
okay.
I signed up for a program, and it was a 6 month program. So if they had this competition, and you could send the book at the end of the program, and if it was a good book, they
Okay.
would reimburse you the cost of the course. But the thing is that I wrote my book in Spanish. So when I sent my book, they told me, "Oh no, this is just for books in English." I was like, "What?"
Oh
But the
wow.
book was out.
All right.
Luckily, the book was out. It was on 2020, May 2020,
Okay.
and by September, more or less September 2021, the English version was ready too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know. So you say you're working on. What are you working on next? You're going to the schools to talk to the kids,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. People are contacting me from schools
Okay.
to give kids this talk about, you know what? As kids, they eat what they have at home. So I thought maybe I should write my book to moms so they can change that. But I'm seeing that maybe the change has to come from the kids, and the kids have to come to their moms and tell them we need to do some changes.
Yeah.
So I've been invited to do some talks at some schools here, and also there's a global program that includes many countries in the world. And I think I'm going to talk to kids in Poland and Madagascar, Israel, Mexico, of course, the US, Taiwan also. Yeah, so I think the kids, of course, if we don't handle this, this will be a task to handle for them.
Yeah.
They will face this problem. So I think they're going to be more open, because you know, with climate change, the problem is that if you're not feeling it, like you're not suffering because of it, you think that we have more time or it's not a big deal.
Right.
But we're actually starting to feel it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like very bad, like in some cases like hurricanes or things. If you get that, you feel that deeper in your soul. But when the climate is warmer, you might actually think it's better. I love this.
Right.
But yeah, the thing is, I think kids will be more receptive, and they'll understand that this is a thing they have to address starting now. And they have to tell their parents, hey, we need to do some changes here.
Because you know, with the kids, they're so innocent, and like you're saying, you can get them in their pure form, right? Their real self is going to show up, and they're listening because, like you're saying, they're like, okay, this is going to affect me in 20 years, and they're already seeing it now. And it's hopefully, you know, some of the parents are telling them, or they're watching, you know, the Discovery Channel, and they're telling them how, you know, the weather is affecting the animals, and you know, kids love animals.
Yeah.
So I just think, like you're saying, hitting at the kids and educating them is key into changing. Because, like you said, we're not going to be here. They're going to be here to be having to deal with this. You know, the ozone layer burning their skin and things like that. So I think it's key.
I think kids are the key.
Yes.
Yeah. And I should talk to moms too, but I think I should be more focused on kids and telling them, you know, you have to talk to them and tell fun stories and things they get, and keep them engaged.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge.
Okay.
But if you can get them there, if you can get them think and realize what's happening, the change is going to happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I never forget my son one year. He was in elementary school. He came home and they must have did like a recycling program. And he was like going around the house like, oh, this is recyclable. This is recyclable. Like, you know, and we was already recycling, but you know, it's just that he came home and was like, this has got to go recyclable, you know. So like you're saying, that's the thing. So whatever happens in school, he brought it home. It's like, okay, mom, we have to recycle these things as well. So I think you're hitting something on the nail.
Let's see. Let's hope for that. I think so. I think their minds are still new. They're still developing. their brains and their minds. So I hope they're a good audience, and they're the ones triggering the things to happen.
Yes.
To be really the change the world needs.
So, Ximena, if anyone wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
The best way, I have a website. It's www.believetransformb.com. And there you can find my email or all my social media accounts, everything.
And if people wanted to purchase your book, what can they purchase it at?
It's in Amazon, and it's in English and in Spanish. So, Healthy Planet, Healthy You.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming to share your message with our audience. Hopefully it inspires someone to, want to change their eating habits and to start living healthy. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sleep to my head to toe. I let the whole world know. I let the whole world know. Divas forget the dough. The hustle, the hustle, the hustle, the hustle. It's the hustle show. We motivate the